How can the Oklahoma Sooners fix that offense?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I'm John Williams. Thanks for joining the show. And again, shout out to all the everydayers. Jay is still traveling for work, so he will be back for our Friday episode as we give you the keys to the game, get you ready for South Carolina. We're going to have a crossover, hopefully, on Thursday with South Carolina, or Locked On Gamecocks as well, to get you ready for that game. But today, let's continue to talk about what's going on with the Oklahoma Sooners. And really, it's all on offense. Like, the biggest focus is on offense. Yes, the defense had some issues against Texas, but what it comes down to is if the offense plays better, perhaps the defense plays better. We've seen throughout much of this season as the offense has kind of experienced a steady decline. Now, I'm going to say this. The Texas Longhorns defense is pretty good. They're the number one defense in the nation for a reason. Sure, they haven't really played a good offense. They'll play a really good offense against Georgia. We hoped that Oklahoma's offense would pose a bit of a challenge coming out of the bye week. That really didn't happen. They've still got some things that they've got to work on. And Brent Venables talked about some of those issues in his press conference on Tuesday in regards to the running game. I thought it was really interesting to say, he's just saying they're falling short, not playing winning football on offense. You got 6,000 excuses and none of them are any good. At this point, yeah, there are no real good excuses. For a couple weeks, you might be able to say, hey, it's not hitting on all cylinders because you don't have the starting wide receivers or the starting offensive line that you expected to have out there. But the Tulane game, 34 points against Tulane. Is that a great performance? No, it's not a great performance, but it was a good performance. It was a solid performance, right? And then the Tennessee game happened and everything just kind of started unraveling from then. And it doesn't really seem like they've had many answers. But I feel like one thing that they can do to help improve the offense's confidence and the efficiency is to get rid of all of the option stuff, whether it's a read option, an RPO, whatever it is. Get rid of all the stuff where you're asking the quarterback to make a decision. They talked about minimizing that and limiting it in the Auburn game, and it seems like it created a little bit more fluidity, a little bit more efficiency, even though, again, not a great offensive performance, but improved from what we saw against Tennessee the week before. But Brent Venables said this during the coaches show on Monday. He said, we had some simple things. There was a do this or do that. When it comes to the quarterback, we've got to make some better decisions there because we had some real opportunities. And, he could be speaking about option routes. He could be speaking about the read option game. He could be speaking about the RPO game, whatever it is. Again, if there's a reason why the quarterback is not feeling it, whether it's a communication issue, the coaching staff's not communicating clearly with the quarterbacks what their read is in the given option scheme, then just scrap it. If it's not a functional part of your offense, just scrap it. Just get rid of it. Why do you bang your head against the wall trying to run an RPO when with Jackson Arnold at quarterback, there were issues, right? We talked about him. We detailed him on this show. It's been detailed in a lot of areas. You can go to the Oklahoma Breakdown and read or listen about it. You can go to Sooner Scoop or OU Insider, wherever you want to go and get your coverage. People have talked about how the RPO game has been an issue for Oklahoma all year. And so if it's Jackson Arnold was having an issue with it, now Michael Hawkins is having an issue with it, whether it's the RPO game or the read option game, there's definitely a disconnect somewhere between the coaching staff and the quarterbacks, why they're not reading it right. So just scrap it. Just get rid of that. I think you take some of the guesswork out of it. I say guesswork. There's supposed to be specific reads that a quarterback uses to make his decision, and they're not reading it correctly or not understanding exactly what's happening, or it hasn't been explained clearly enough what they're supposed to be doing. And so quit doing the thing of insanity where the thing that doesn't work, you keep going back to it. Quit doing it. Take the guesswork out. Just let them play simple. I don't want to say simple football. You can let it because they're smart enough guys. It doesn't have to be uber complicated, but you can use some complicated concepts. At the same time, like there's something not quite right with the option game. And there's a disconnect, and it's been happening all year. And it's not a Michael Hawkins thing. It's not a Jackson Arnold thing. It may not even be a Seth Luttrell, Kevin Johns thing. It might not even be a Joe John Finley thing. It's just there's some disconnect to that part of your offense. Things are not working smoothly on that front. So just go to, hey, we're going to run the ball in this play. There's not an option. There's not a choice. We're just going to run the ball. The RPO, hey, this is just going to be a slant to Brendan Thompson. It's a play action slant. There's no RPO. There's no read. We're just going to throw the ball. It allows your quarterback to be more decisive, right? When he's not having to make the first decision, do I hand it or do I keep it? And then he's having to make a decision. Do I throw it or do I eat it? Or do I hit that read or do I throw it to my next read? No, it makes it a little bit more bang, bang, right? And with a young quarterback that's inexperienced at the collegiate level, I'm not saying you have to simplify things, but you want to allow him to have more decisiveness than that. And we're already seeing that at times decisiveness is a bit of an issue when things are open. I mean, Brent Venables talked about it yesterday in his press conference when he talked about Michael Hawkins. He says there's sometimes when you don't trust it, you develop that through practice and confidence that comes with it. Mentioned that there were opportunities down the field for Hawkins in the passing game to find some connection. Again, it's a decisiveness thing. So if decisiveness is an issue, take some of the decision work out. And that comes in the option game. Just get rid of that part of the offense. I've said that multiple times in this segment already. And allow Michael Hawkins to hand the ball off or throw the football. Play action bootleg. I've got my flat read. I've got my 10-yard out read. And that's what I got. You know, the spread concepts. I've got my slant read. I've got my deep read. Make it a little bit more decisive for him. Allow him to be more decisive, because throwing too many options at him, we talked about it in the offseason, right? Or earlier in the season, Jay mentioned it when Shadur Sanders talked about every single play was an option play and he had to make a choice on every single play. Well, sometimes that information overload, that decision-making overload can just weigh on you. So again, throw some wide receiver screens. As much as I am not a big fan of the wide receiver screen, it has its place. And right now in Oklahoma's offense would be a great place to have it, because it creates a simple thing for the offense and a easy decision for the quarterback. Hey, I'm throwing it out there to Brendan Thompson. I'm throwing it out there to Zion Kearney. And now it's up to the offensive line to get out there in space, the wide receivers to get out there in space and make a block, and my guy to win in space to make somebody miss and go make a play. Throw some running back screens. We've got some fast, explosive running backs. Get them in space with the ball in their hands, with blockers out in front of them. If the run game is not yielding the necessary results that you want, then run some halfback screens. If it's run effectively, it could be a really nice part of the offense. And it keeps the pass rush off balance. When you're running screen plays, it keeps them, one, out of the lap of your quarterback, and two, they have to redirect their rush, right? Redirect where they're going. They're going upfield. Oh crap, that's a wide receiver screen. Now I have to stop, change direction, and get to the sideline to go make a play. Against South Carolina's defense, you're going to want to do some of that. You're going to want to have some misdirection as part of your game plan, because letting them just come straight at your quarterback who's sitting in the pocket is not going to be a great recipe for success. So get rid of the option game, throw more screens, and listen, get the ball out of his hands quickly. The screen play, some slants, like stuff that's going to allow him to just drop back and throw. Because again, get some of the decision-making out. Michael Hawkins has a lot of talent. Jackson Arnold has a lot of talent. These guys are talented quarterbacks. There's a reason they're at Oklahoma. They're really good players. But the offensive game plan, the offensive philosophy has not done them any good this year so far. Now, there's 6 games left. There's opportunity to turn it around. There's a chance to turn it around. Has to start with South Carolina. What did Brent Venables say about staff changes in his weekly press conference? Could a wide receiver be on the return? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show the only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time has great tickets to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater, whatever you're looking for. Game Time has it covered. They have curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. And one of my favorite features is that seat views feature. I can get a panoramic view from my seat in the app before I even purchase it. So I'm not worried about obstructed views or terrible line of sight or a bad angle. I can see exactly what I'm going to be looking at. And they've got great tickets available for this weekend's matchup between Oklahoma and South Carolina. So go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time! Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Make sure you're tuned in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for all your support and the just encouragement on this show. We've just had a blast covering Oklahoma football for you so far this season, and we got a long way to go in 2024. So make sure you tune in with us every single day. Brent Venables spoke on a number of things during his weekly press conference, and I thought this one was a really great question asked. And I can't remember who asked him. Maybe it was Barry Trammell. You know, he gets a good one every once in a while. But he asked about staff changes and what Brent Venables' philosophy was on that. And basically, here's what Brent Venables said. He says, you go back and look at where I've been. I've not been a part of any staff changes in the middle of the season. Bill Snyder, Bob Stoops, and at Clemson with Dabo Swinney. Venables said, there's always problems. Some people know about, some people don't. Sometimes you don't have success. People point to one guy. Most of the time, it's a combination of a lot of things why you're struggling. So again, you try to put it all together on why you're struggling. And listen, I'll be fair. There's a lot of reasons why Oklahoma's struggling right now. Sorry, got to get a cup of coffee. When Jay's here, I get a chance to get a break. There's a reason why. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but the guy at the head of the table for the offense, the offensive coordinator, I mean, right now, it's all falling in his lap. Fairly or unfairly, it's on Seth Luttrell. It's on Joe John Finley. It's on the offensive staff, the assistants. They've got to figure out a way to get this thing running more efficiently. They've got to find some more production because they're only averaging like 12 points a game right now in SEC play. That's not good. I mean, you take the pick six out against Auburn, that's a 20-point game. You take I mean, that's really it. You take some of the points off the board from earlier in the season, the Jaren Kanak fumble return on the punt, the pick six, the safety, and their point per game average drops even more than what it already is. So this is a team that's got a lot that they've got to answer over the next 6 games and figure out because, I mean, this is not a great direction for the offense. Yes, it's inexperienced. Yes, you are dealing with inexperience at quarterback, at wide receiver. You're not finding what you're hoping for in the run game with your offensive line. There's a lot of reasons why it's not going well. I'll go to Brent Venables' point about being a part of staffs that didn't have any coaching changes. It's because they were really good teams. Kansas State in the 90s was pretty solid, right? Bob Stoops during Brent Venables' tenure in 1999 to 2000, and when did Venables leave? 11. Pretty good, right? It was a pretty good football team. Dabo Swinney, obviously really good with Venables there at Clemson. So obviously you're not making a lot of changes when things are going really, really well. So, and I get where he's coming from too, that you make a change and maybe it gets better, maybe it doesn't. A lot of people are pointing to Purdue and getting rid of Graham Harrell. And then they had a 49-point explosion and 500 yards of total offense. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think if you felt really, really good about all the talent that you had available to you, like if you had all your wide receivers available, Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, Jalil Farouk, Jaden Gibson, all those guys were available, and you're fully healthy and the offense is still not clicking, then I can understand getting out there and making a change for change's sake. But you kind of have to give Seth Luttrell a little bit of a pass. At the same time, he's got to have a long look in the mirror and figure out what part of the offense is not working. And then just like we talked about in the first segment, just scrap it and look to do some things that's going to make sense. Like, I don't remember seeing a jet sweep against Texas. Like, Deion Burks was really effective in the jet sweep game, but I don't think we saw any of that. I know Deion Burks wasn't available for Texas, but you've got guys that are quick and can move and can run with the ball in their hands, and we didn't see any of it. So where did that go? So some of this is like when things work, keep it a part of the offense and keep it a part of your offensive kind of thread, so to speak. Like, if the jet sweep is working, run jet sweep action, counter, bootleg your quarterback and make a throw. Or that jet sweep is working, just run it. Give it an opportunity. We've seen that Oklahoma actually can run pretty well to the perimeter, whether it's Javonte Barnes running to the perimeter, but we're not building off of that. We're not building off of those perimeter runs that give them an opportunity to be effective. And not just, hey, we run the ball on the perimeter. It's we run the ball on the perimeter and then we build off that run to the perimeter. In a, hey, I'm running my play action that way, but I'm moving my pocket so that those guys don't have a direct line toward me, and then I can throw off of that. Or I can, run that bootleg or run that counter and then throw a pass to the other side. Things like that, building off of what works. And so, yeah, figuring out, hey, we got to get that jet sweep back in there. And if Deion Burks is able to return, maybe that happens this Saturday. Brent Venables said that he's at 80% of his practice volume, which that's a really good sign. If he's doing 80% of the work in practice, then perhaps he'll be ready to go by game day. But your problems are bigger than just Deion Burks. And getting him back helps. It helps your passing game. Obviously, it helps your running game. At the same time, you've got to have things in your offensive arsenal that go beyond just the personnel that are available. You've got to figure out what your personnel does well and implement it. If you can get Deion Burks back, that's going to help Michael Hawkins because it creates another opportunity to get a playmaker on the field and somebody who can win in the short area passing game. But if he's not available, you still need your quarterback to go and be more decisive and throw the ball when opportunities are there for him to throw the ball. I didn't mention it in the first segment, but that's one area where Oklahoma's offense needs to improve. And that's just allowing Michael Hawkins to be aggressive, not worrying so much about turnovers, not worrying so much about, throwing a bad ball or putting the ball in a risky situation. You need your quarterback to sometimes do that, to sometimes throw the ball into some risky situations. I'd rather him throw the ball and, 8 times out of 10, it's going to be on target to the receiver. And then 2 times he gets intercepted. Because right now what's not happening is he's gun shy and he's not throwing the ball. So we need to figure out, hey, quit preaching turnovers. Just preach, throw the ball. Just throw the dang ball. I like that he's throwing it away sometimes, but there are certain situations where you just can't throw it away. Whether it's a 3rd down, whether it's a 4th down, you got to give your receivers an opportunity to make a play. Because you've got some guys that can make some plays, but you got to give them opportunities. You've got tight ends that are capable of making plays in the passing game. You got to give them opportunities. So whether Deion Burks returns or not, even if he's not 100%, still Michael Hawkins has to go out there and he has to throw the dang ball. He's got to put some mustard on it and throw it to his receiver and give them an opportunity to make a play. If you see it, throw it. Even if you don't see it, anticipate it. Anticipate the throw coming open and make the throw and give your receiver, your tight end, your running backs opportunities to make plays. But hopefully Deion Burks is back. I think that could really make a big impact on the offense because he's just too dynamic of a playmaker to not have an impact. But you're going to need him. You're going to need him available this week and the rest of the season because you play some really, really good defenses moving forward. I mean, Texas is number 1 in the nation in points per game right now, but they're not maybe not the best defense you're going to see, but probably the best defense you're going to see all year. Perhaps that creates a little bit of optimism that it can only get better from here. if you're looking at a glass half full approach. There were some other really intriguing notes, and one that we'll talk about next is the idea of Jackson Arnold redshirting that was discussed in yesterday's press conference as well. We'll do that next on Locked On Sooners. Locked On Sooners is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, you bet $5, you get $200 back in bonus bets over at FanDuel.com. And the Oklahoma Sooners still a 2.5-point favorite right now over South Carolina. The over-under still sitting at 40.5 over at FanDuel. And I mean, it'd be really easy to take the under right now based on what we've seen out of Oklahoma's offense. And hey, South Carolina's offense has had some good moments, also not great at this point in the season either, but did just put up 25 points on Alabama. So you can go get in on the action over at FanDuel. Also, you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. So in this current era of NIL, the transfer portal, a lot of players are making early decisions on what they're going to do for this season. You saw several players, Bear Alexander from USC, one of them, that opted to redshirt the rest of the season after just 4 games because of playing time, because of who knows what else. The Sluka situation at UNLV is a very unique one. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's going to be the case for everyone, but his was definitely an NIL related situation and issue. And UNLV just said, all right, peace, get out of here. And they've been doing just fine without him. So a really a poor calculation or miscalculation on him and his circle's part on that one. But the question was brought up because of all of these early redshirt decisions that have been made. It has Jackson Arnold. Has there been any discussion about redshirting Jackson Arnold? And Brent Venables was open about it. And he said, let me see if I can find the quote over here at the Oklahoman. I think I just passed it. He said, it's been discussed between us. What was told to Jackson, we put you in is because we need you to help us go win. We're not sitting here with our head in the sand or naive. He's practiced extremely well the last couple of weeks. I feel like it's only right to give Mike the opportunity to be the quarterback. I'm certainly not immune to anything. I know Steve Spurrier did for and this is on the possibility of playing 2 quarterbacks. I'm certainly not immune to anything. I know Steve Spurrier did it for his whole career. That being said, it'd be great if you had one you could get behind and do the things that were necessary in order to win. Certainly not put it out of the realm of possibility in the future. So on Jackson Arnold redshirt, Brent Venables even went on to say Jackson wants to be the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. I think it speaks to the competitiveness of the player, but man, yeah, if there's still a chance that he could play at Oklahoma. I mean, Michael Hawkins, he has been solid at times, but he hasn't done enough, I think, to just really distinguish himself as, hey, I am the starter. This is my team for now, for 2025, for 2026, for 2027, however long he wants to be at Oklahoma. It very well could be. I mean, he could go out and have a great performance against South Carolina that really starts to change the narrative and the perspective of where Oklahoma's quarterback situation is going for this year and for next and the year beyond. At the same time, I mean, this whole opting out after 4 games situation, if you're a quarterback, I don't think that screams leader to many college football programs out there. Is it possible that he redshirts this year? Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. If they continue to go with Michael Hawkins the rest of the way, Jackson would end up earning his red shirt. At the same time, if they feel like they need to go back to him, I mean, the coaching staff just has to go back to him, and he has to be ready and he has to be prepared. And I don't think that Jackson or Arnold would sit there and sulk and be like, oh, I'm just not going to play. That just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that he is, the kind of player and teammate that he is. And so any possibility or any thought, and I don't even think that that'd be something that would happen at Oklahoma, just because of who Brent Venables is and his coaching staff and what they kind of require and demand. And it's team first. And if you're not team first, you're not going to really be a part of the team. And they usually weed those guys out pretty early on. That's why you might see a guy transfer after just one season with Oklahoma because they figure out they're not a culture fit and are quote unquote processed, or the player decides, hey, this isn't a really good fit for me. And so, yeah, I fully expect Arnold to be ready to go in the event that he's needed to go. On the idea of a 2-quarterback system, I'm not typically a fan of the 2-quarterback situation just because they, the old adage, you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks, and it's usually pretty true. If you're not certain about who's going to be able to be productive for you, then you've got to, and the offense isn't sure who's going to be coming in from drive to drive. It does change the dynamic of an offense when you have to go back and forth between a quarterback from a cadence standpoint to a communication standpoint. All of that kind of stuff matters. But I think you kind of have to keep it in the back of your mind, maybe not playing 2 quarterbacks, but giving Arnold an opportunity if things don't find more production at some point. Like if we don't find a more productive offense moving forward over the final 6 games, or things are just stagnant, or Hawkins just isn't throwing the football or whatever, then you have to think, okay, has Jackson Arnold had a chance to reset? Have we gotten to a point where we can go back to him and give him an opportunity to show improved decision-making and ball security? Because that's really what it came down to. And less so about, just ball security, but just the decision-making. The decision-making was really what got him benched, because it was reckless. It was reckless decision-making, not just, hey, he made the wrong read. It was, I threw a ball that wasn't supposed to be thrown to a receiver where it wasn't supposed to go because it wasn't part of the offense. And, it all kind of snowballed for him in that Tennessee game. Get an opportunity to reset, sit down for a few games, get your mind clear, and go just play football. Perhaps he comes back and he's a little bit different a player the next time he's on the field. We'll see if he even gets an opportunity to be on the field this season, unless, because they want to give Michael Hawkins every opportunity to assert himself as the starting quarterback at this point. They want to give him, as Brent Venables called it, a full body of work. They want him to put enough on film, enough on tape to allow them to make an objective decision based on what they can evaluate on tape. Practice gives you one thing, games give you another thing, and they don't feel like they've got enough tape on Michael Hawkins just yet to be able to make any kind of decision about who the quarterback should be. They want Michael Hawkins right now to continue to play, and they believe he's earned the opportunity to go continue to play football for the Sooners. So listen, I'm fine with that. I don't think you're a playoff contender this year anyway. I don't think you're going to be an SEC title contender, obviously. Now you got 2 losses in the SEC, and you've got a tough road ahead. So figure out your quarterback situation. That is priority number 1 for this season going into 2025, is having a good, clear picture of what you can rely on at quarterback as you go through the rest of this year and then get ready for 2025. Because if neither guy gives you an answer this year on who the quarterback is, then you're either going into the offseason in a quarterback competition, or you're potentially looking for a transfer portal quarterback. And either way, that doesn't really set you up for a smooth offseason. You've got a lot of questions. You got to answer them in the next 6 games. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. So hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. The show on all social media platforms is Locked On Sooners. So make sure you go follow us over there. Also, go check out the Locked On College Football channel, where you can get great insight into every weekend's action with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football. Also, go check out Locked On SEC. Great show with Chris Gordy. The Thunder are getting going again. Check out the phenomenal Rylan Stiles at Locked On Thunder. A lot of great shows here on the Locked On Podcast Network for you to peruse. But again, make sure that Locked On Sooners is your first listen every single day. Again, shout out to all the everydayers out there. But until next time, I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooner.